And welcome back. What we're going to do now is build a jQuery car racing game that I called the jQuery Car Racer 2.0. Basically, what happens is we have a couple silly looking cars here, and when you click race, they're going to race one another. And basically, I don't know who will win. Nobody knows who will win. Only the random jQuery gods will know. So when you click race, watch what happens. Clearly, car 2 won that race, and car 2 is lagging behind. And down in the results, you get to see car 2 finished in first place, clocked in at 799 milliseconds. And car 1 second, and was 3938 milliseconds. I can reset the game and do the same thing and see what happens. Looks like a close race. Again, car 2 came in first place, and car 1 came in second place. And you can keep doing this, and basically, it'll just always be random. Car 1 or car 2 will race at random speeds, and you never know who is going to win. And then it gives you these nice little results down here. And yeah, that's how it works. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to build this game in jQuery, just to show you the power of jQuery, and to take you out of the whole website building conventions. I wanted to do something a little different and show you that jQuery can do much more than just give you drop-down menus and animate buttons. So let's go into our code here. And what I did is created a file called car.html. You can go ahead and download that and copy, or paste what we have in there. It's just some basic HTML. I'll run through it quickly here. We have body with the ID of race, just for styling. We have a level 1 heading. Make sure you hook and normalize in style.css or styles.css. We have a couple inputs that are just buttons. One is for racing and one is for resetting. So the IDs go and reset respectively. Then we have the ID of racetrack with a couple images in there. And those images, again, are available for download, car 1 and car 2. They're in the images folder if you downloaded the full course files. Again, I will provide them also in this lecture, but you downloaded everything at the very beginning of the jQuery section. The race info container gives you the race info. We have just some divs here that are fairly empty. So we'll use jQuery to fill in the text based on who won the race. And then we have our jQuery from the CDN, and then the backup jQuery, the local version if it fails, and then our script.js. Okay. In our styles.css, this is where we're going to style up our racing game. And we will run through the styles here just so you can see how you could style such a game. Let me show you what it looks like here with just the plain HTML. So we have jQuery Car Racer, we have inputs, the two cars, results, car 1, car 2. These won't do anything right now because there's no jQuery or anything. This is just plain HTML, no CSS. So let's style it up. We're going to go ahead and jump right in and do that. First, we're going to select the racetrack, and then we're going to give it the styles, background, URL. Now, I need to go in strings here, .. That's going to jump up one directory, down into the images directory, and then road.jpg. I'm going to center, left, and repeat X. Now let me show you why. I have the road.jpg here. It is just a pattern. I created this in Photoshop. I created a gray background. This is 330 pixels high. And I gave it some texture just using the noise filters in Photoshop just to make it look a bit more like a road. And then I just created a rectangle, a yellow rectangle, and just made it roughly, 120, 100 pixels long. And then I stopped and gave some space here, about 20, 30 pixels here. And then I cut it off because now I can repeat it on the x-axis and it will repeat seamlessly and look like a road. Now that looks like this. So I save that and I'll just show you in the browser. There we have a road, but it's only as tall as the cars. So we need to set that height. So let's go ahead and give it a height of the actual background image. So it's full, 330 pixels, and that should look right. There you go. See how it's seamless? Now what we're going to do is go border right dashed 10 pixels in white to give kind of a finish line. But because we're not, because the box sizing is not by default border box, you won't be able to see this border. So we need to set box sizing to border box to keep the border contained within the box. And that will look like so. there's our finish line. Now we're going to style the car class, which is both of the cars have the class of car. So we can conveniently style them as block, display, block, and position. We need to position them relative. Why? Because in jQuery, we're going to be manipulating the position of the car. We won't be able to access the left property because position will not be set to relative. So that's just a little trick you need to know. So I styled them position relative, display block. Now let's style car 1, and I'm going to keep that on the same line. And the other reason why we made the position relative is because we need to be able to move them from top right now. So I'm going to move this one down 30 pixels like so it's centered in its lane of the road here. And I'm going to copy this, paste it, and style car 2, and move that one 100 pixels down from the top. So it's centered in its lane. So now they're ready to start racing, kind of. We still need to style. So we're going to style the race info container, and we're going to give it a width of 80 pixels, margin 0 auto, and margin top. I'm just going to do this one separately, 40 pixels. I could have done something like this, margin, maybe I will, 40 pixels, auto 0. There we go. Keeps it more simple. Background, 333. Height 200 pixels, save, and then we should have our results box. Now let's style the level 2 heading in the race info container, and that would be level 2 heading. We're going to give it the color of white. We're going to say text transform uppercase, border bottom, solid 1 pixel white, and padding 20 pixels on the top, and bottom 0 on the left and right. Looks like so. Lots of stuff you got to code to get something looking good. That's what you'll notice in your web design and web development career. Now we need to select the race info class. That is both of the race info boxes. We need to give it the font size of 24 pixels, so it's a bit bigger. Font weight, let's make it bold. Whoops. Sometimes this auto fill, these auto complete features in these code editors just are more of a hassle than they are a benefit. Color, white, so you can see it on the dark. Width, each of them 50%, so I could float them left. Save. There we go. We still got more here because there's a span tag within those classes. And we want to say display block, font weight normal, font size 18 pixels, and color white. The reason why I'm styling this is because this is where the jQuery will input text, and I just want it to have this style so it's a bit different from the heading of the race info div. Now I'm going to select the race info ID 1, give it the same color of its car, which is 77B82F. And I'm going to copy this, paste it one more time because we have race info 2. And that's going to be B82F3E. And that will be the color of that car, just so it matches. Input, we're going to style the inputs so they look better than the default browser styles. So input button, background, I'm going to go for 77B82F, same color as the green car. Color, white, padding, 20 pixels, 10 pixels top and bottom, 20 left and right, and border, solid 1 pixel, 444. Now I'm going to style the input with the ID of reset, so it's different from the go button. Background, the famous FC3, color, 444. Check it out. They're looking better. Need a bit of margin here. So basically we just need to go up to our racetrack, I believe. Yes, the racetrack. And it's going to need some margin, which will just be margin, 40 pixels top and bottom, 0 left and right. That'll space it out. There we go. Now we're pretty much good to go. The one last thing I want to do is just do a quick clear fix, I think, because technically I think this container, maybe something has collapsed because I did the floats. Remember how I did the floats? So I did floats here, race info container, class clear fix. Seems as though it is fine. So let me just do a clear fix. Now you remember the clear fix. Clear fix is just simply clear fix because we already added the class in the HTML after the pseudo element content blank display table and clear both. There we go. Refresh. And we have our clear fix right here. So the element won't have collapsed. But we may not have needed to add it anyway. I just added it as a precaution. I guess maybe it was just unnecessary, but that's okay. Good practice. If you have a collapsing container because of floats, you're going to have to use the clear fix. That's just a little lesson for you there. All right, now we're ready to race, or at least build the racing program. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our script.js, and at the very bottom here, I'm just going to give some space so we have lots of space to work with. We're going to start by calling the click event when you click on the go button. That's the very first part of the program. So click the go button. That looks like so. When you click go, like this, click function. There is the syntax, like so. This is where everything is going to be built. Nothing happens until you click the go button. The next thing I want to do is just get some variables here. So I want to get the width of the cars. So I'm just going to check one of the cars because they're the same width. So I'm going to say car width is the variable is equal to, now we're going to select the class of car. This will select both. You can do one or the other. If one or the other were different widths, then you might want to do that like so, car 1 or car 2. But because they're both the same width, you could get away with selecting the class. But keep in mind, if one of those cars changes width, meaning you use a different image, then this isn't going to work because they're going to be two different images widths. So why don't we just do something like this? We'll go off of car 1. And this is going to use jQuery here method to get width. So this is going to store the width of the car 1 in the car width variable here that we'll use later. Now what we're going to do is get the width of the racetrack. Now, the simple way of doing that would just be going var race track width equals. Now we're going to select the window object and then get width. So this is going to get the full width of the browser. The problem is we need to be able to, when you race the car, so let me show you here. When you race the car, it's not going to work yet, but I'll show you. This car is going to move like so, but we want it to end at the nose of the car. What's going to happen by default is it's going to end at the tail of the car because its positions move from the top left corner of an element, which is right here. And so it's going to stop at the top left corner, but we want it to stop at the top right corner or the right edge of this image. And so we need to calculate the width of the car, which we did, and calculate the width of the road, which is the width of the browser, minus the width of the car. So basically, it's going to get the width of the road and it's going to end the car here, but we're going to minus the width of the car. So it stops here. See how that works? So now what we need to do is instead of just getting the width of the window, we're going to say minus car width. And then that will give us the racetrack width minus the car width. And that will be good to go. Next, we need to generate a random number between, let's say, 1 and 5,000. You could do any combination of numbers you really want, but this is going to be between 1 millisecond and 5,000 milliseconds is how long the cars can race for, potentially. So var race time 1, this is going to be for car 1. Now, to generate a random number, you got to use some JavaScript. It's a little messy looking. So you say math, floor, and then in parentheses, this is where we add another set of parentheses and say math dot random, open closing parentheses, times 5,000. Now, outside of that parentheses, give a space plus 1. This means generate a random number between 1 and 5,000. You can change this to 100 or 4,000 or whatever you want, but this is what I'm going to do. Copy this, paste it again, change race time variable to 2 so that we can have two different variables. So they can both have different random numbers. Now, what we need to do is set a flag variable. Set a flag variable to false by default. Now, the reason why we're going to do this is so that we can use this to check to see if a car has finished the race. So var is complete, we're going to call it, equals false. That's a Boolean value. Boolean means true or false. There are integers, there are strings, and there are Boolean values. And this is Boolean, so false. So var is complete is false by default because nobody has won the race yet. So that is called a flag variable. And now we're going to set another flag variable to first by default. Now this is just going to be a string. We're going to say var place and then first. The reason why we're doing this is because we want to be able to say this car came in first or second place. By default, somebody's going to come in first place, so we're just going to say place is first. And now, basically, we need to build an animation. So we got our variables set up. Let's start building an animation. So let's animate car 1. So we're going to select car 1 and then use the jQuery animate method here. Now, animate method looks like this. This is the syntax, and this is where you add your animation in here. So first we want to do is move the car the width of the racetrack. And you just use the left property and then race track width. That's the variable. We already know that. So that is going to pull this value right here. So we're going to move it left, the racetrack width, and no semicolon. I made a mistake there. No semicolon there. If you're going to add more properties, then you use a comma, like so. But if it's the last one, you don't need to add a comma. Now, at the end of an animation, there's actually more to the syntax. After the ending curly brace, you add a comma, and then you add the time you want the animation to run for. So you could say 5,000 seconds, and then function, open closing parentheses, open curly brace, two returns, closing curly brace. This is the full syntax of an animation. Now, because we don't want it to run for a fixed amount of time, this means the car is always going to run for 5,000 milliseconds. We want it to be random so we can actually have a real race. And luckily, we have those values. So race time 1 is going to get you this random number that we don't know. And now function in here is where you want to run a callback if once the animation is complete. So animation is complete, and in here is where you can run code. And so we're going to run a function that we built to let you know if the car has completed the race, because we don't know if the car has completed the race yet. So let me just save this and just see if what we have works so far. So there we go. We have this car. I'm going to refresh because the reset button doesn't work yet. I'm going to race. Car 1 will go. You can see that it races at random speeds. It's always a different set of milliseconds. This one's a bit slower than last. But we don't know if it's done yet. So we need to build a function to check to see if a car has completed the race. So up at the top here, still within the click function, we're going to build a function to see if a car has won the race. So we're going to say function, and we're going to call it check if complete. Here is where our function will be built. We're going to check to see, we need to create a variable down here. So let's go ahead and set this variable, make sure, no, we did. So is complete. Remember this variable? We're going to use this. So in our function, we're going to say if is complete is equal to false. So if the is complete variable is equal to false, meaning if no car has completed the race. So this is basically means the winner is still up for grabs. Then set the variable, change the flag variable to true. So basically this means a car is going to reach the end. It's going to check to see if the race has been complete. If it hasn't, well, it has officially been complete because somebody won the race. Then flip the is complete variable to true, because else, this is where we're going to say place, the variable place that we set is equal to second. Now remember that we said place was equal to first. This means when one car reaches the end, it's going to flip the is complete variable to true because now the race is complete, and it's going to say, hey, you came in first place, which we'll do shortly. Otherwise, the place variable needs to say second, because once we hit the end, if the second car gets there, it's going to say, is the race complete? It's not equal to false, so therefore it is equal to true. So else, change the place variable to second, because now we need to say you came in second place. And so we're going to save this. And now we really only have to, in here, we need to run the function. Can't miss that. Check if complete. We're going to run that function. That's how you run the function. And next, what we're going to do is give some text feedback just to let you know info about the race. So we're going to select the race info 1 span element, and then text. We're going to add some text, and we're going to say finished in some space string. Outside of the string, we're going to concatenate the variable place. So we're just going to say first or second, and close that concatenation with a plus sign. Open your single string, space, place. So this will say finished in first or second place, and clocked in at space, close the string, space, concatenate the race time 1 variable, space, plus sign for closing concatenation, string to open up that string again, space, milliseconds, and close that string. This is going to say finished in whatever place and clocked in at however many milliseconds. So save that, and now we just need to copy the animate car 1 and paste it, change it to car 2, and race time needs to be race time 2, because that's a different race time variable. Check if complete, we're all good. Race info 2 span, save, and then race time 2. So now it's going to say what it's going to choose the proper variables, and it's going to let you know if car 1 or car 2 wins. So let's save that and go back to our game here, refresh. Now hit race. And there you go. Car 2 finished in first place and clocked in at 430 milliseconds. Car 1 finished in second place, clocked in at 3826 milliseconds. Now, remember when we set those variables to first and true or false when it comes to is complete? Well, that's because right now we need to check to see if one of these cars is going to win. So this is a close race. Green won, and so then it flips the variable, the place variable, into second so that car 2 can spit out the correct place text in our feedback here. So the place variable is going to be either first or second, and the race time is going to be the race time of the random number that we generated. And up here, the check if complete function is really the magic that lets you know which car won, because otherwise it wouldn't tell you. And this is how we do that. Is complete is equal to false. If it's equal to false, that means nobody's won. And so that means that first car wins, or whatever car gets there wins. It flips the complete variable to true, which means the next car that gets there, it's not gonna satisfy this first condition. So that means that it's in second place, and the variable place is equal to second, so that down here finished in second place. Now, one last thing before we go, the reset button doesn't work. We want to be able to reset the game so we could try again. Very, very simple. At the very bottom of your jQuery here, we're just going to reset. So we're going to say reset, and we're going to say the click function or the click method, and then add a function. And here we're going to take the car class, the CSS, and we're going to reset that left property to 0. And then we're going to clear the race info span text by putting an empty string. Now save that, race, and then reset. And then you can keep racing over and over again. And that is how you create the jQuery Car Racer 2.0, guys. Hopefully that was fun and you got to see the power of jQuery. And we're going to be moving on into some new territory coming up next.